Hi, everyone. Again, to those who have previously joined, welcome again. To those who joined us just now, hi, welcome to today's tea break webinar. Today, we're going to talk about one of our very beloved templates here at Flourish, the line chart race. What are we going to cover in today's webinar is our line chart race template in general and what are the benefits of using this template. And we're also going to go and cover our new template updates, which are our reveal mode. Now you can also add captions to your visualization, and we have improved our label positionings. Although that may not really talk much at the moment, I'm going to demonstrate these three updates later on, so I'm sure everything's going to be clear. In addition, we're going to be creating the line chart race from scratch, so you feel a bit more confident when you're doing this yourself. And in the end, we're going to finish with our useful resources to help you get started. This is our team here at Flourish. We cover support and content. My name is Simona, and I'm today's webinar host. And I have Olivia here with me, who is going to be answering all of your questions in the chat. So without further ado, let's just focus on the line chart race. Our line chart race template basically combines two different chart types and animates them in a very cool and very visual way. So the first chart type is our ranks, or a bump chart, so to say, and the second one is a very simple normal line chart, just animated. You can use this template to visualize the changing net worth of people, for example, or generally for any groups in competition with each other, such as political candidates. It could be football teams, it could be companies, and anything you wish, really. So without further ado, I'm just going to go and create a visualization from scratch, just because I know that everybody's here for that very reason. The data that I'm going to be using today, you're going to find it after my presentation, so you can actually use it as well. Before I do that, actually, I'm just going to quickly go through the three different template updates that we have recently featured, so just so you're a bit more aware of what are we doing today and why are we doing it. The first one, very quickly, is our new reveal mode. So now the line chart race has three different modes to choose from. And the brand new reveal mode basically makes the x-axis visible from the start until the current time slice of your visualization. And today we're going to be using our reveal mode just so it becomes a bit more clear. In addition, similarly to our bar chart race template, which is also very popular, you can now add captions to your line chart race visualizations, and you can also add images, emojis, and you can customize it as much as you want. In addition, our new setting prevents your labels from overlapping by spreading them. And we have a new blog post here featured, so you can read a little bit more about this there. So as I mentioned, here we have our data that we're going to be using today. And this is this data has been taken from our World Team data and takes a look at the percentages of internet users by country. We have focused on the 12 biggest countries in the world, most populated countries, should I say. And as you can see here, we have different years and different percentages for each year. So, of course, the first step to create a visualization in Flourish is to go to your account and click on this blue button here called New Visualization. Once you do that, if you scroll a little bit down to in the template chooser, you can find our line chart race, which basically has three different starting points. Well, today, we're going to use the simple, the most basic standard line chart race, just so I can demonstrate the different modes as well. Then the second one is basically the same as the first one, the simple, with the only change is that there is a separate column which has been chosen for filtering, so you and your viewers can choose which lines to appear on screen. And the third one is the zoomed mode, which is one of our three different modes of our line chart race. But I'm going to show you this in a second. Now, choosing the simple mode here, as you can see, we already have, as in every single template, we already have some data imported here. If you go back to the data tab, you can see how the data of this template has been structured. And this should be your first guidelines. This is how your data should look like in order for this template to work. So if I go back to my percentage of internet users data, you can see that this is how it should be, simply because all my participants in the race are within a single column, which is column A, and all of the different countries and the values respectively have separate columns. So what I can do is I can literally download this file as a CSV from Google Sheets, and I can import it into my visualization. What am I going to do is I'm going to clear the sheet here, and I'm going to upload my data by going to my computer. Once this is done, you can see that now our data has been imported directly into Flourish. For line chart race lovers, you will probably notice that there is now an extra sheet here called Captions as well, and this is where you should put your captions. For your convenience, all of these columns have already been named accordingly and bound here on the right as well, simply because now what you need to do is literally put some time range or lapse range. For example, if you're doing the sports visualization, you put your caption here, and you can also import an image. But we're going to do this last. Now, first, let's go back to the data and start binding our columns. Very straightforward, and self-explanatory, I would say. Your name column is has to contain all the participants in the line chart race. And in addition, when it says score columns, we need to bound our all of our data. So in this visualization, actually, our columns are correct, B to P. In addition, there is also a separate setting for an image column. However, for this visualization, I haven't chosen one because I'm going to show you how to import the background image of your visualization. But just for the purposes of showing you how this setting works, I have here another visualization that I have previously created. So if I click replay, you can see that there is a line chart race visualization of the market cap of the world's top entertainment companies for last year. And every single company has an image but McDonald's. Now, in order to change that, we should go to the data tab. And as you can see here, there is a column for images already bound in image column. However, the only company that is missing an image is McDonald's. There are two ways that you can upload an image in our line chart races. The first one is literally get a link from the internet, and you just copy and paste the link in the column. The other option is to right click on this empty cell and go to upload file. This is what am I going to do now. And if I upload my McDonald's image, you can see that now this has generated a public.flourish.studio link, which means that your picture is now saved on our server. And if I go to preview, you can see that now McDonald's has an image as any other company. So yeah, two ways for you to upload images, and this is how in general works whenever there is an image setting within any Flourish template. Moving back to our new visualization that we create from scratch. Now that all of our columns are bound appropriately, we can just go to the preview tab. And as you can see here, something is already changing. There are some countries moving, and yeah, the line chart race has started. I'm going to focus on our different play modes now, so you can just see more clearly what the differences between the three modes are. The first one, the ones that's been selected by default, is our all, which means that our x-axis, which displays years right now, is visible from the start of the race until the end. So starting from 2000 to 2014, you can see all the years in the race. However, if I go to the zoom mode, and if I click replay, just focus on year 2000 and see what happens. The more the race starts, our years start to disappear, and they keep disappearing and keep disappearing until we hit 2014. And what happens at the end when this race finishes? Basically, only a certain section of our race is available and visible. And you can adjust this by this button here, the visible stages. So for example, if I choose 4 or 5 visible stages, now we can see 4 or 5 years behind. However, if I return this back to 3 and I go to our review mode now, and I click replay, just focus on year 2000 again, you're going to see that what happens is once the chart starts moving, our axis is still visible from the very beginning. Our year 2000 doesn't disappear. What it does is actually moving smoothly throughout the x-axis time stamps and basically shows us everything at the end. So this is very cool as well once you want to basically make a comparison in between all the different countries from year 2000 until the end of our race. So this is the mode we're going to be using today. In addition, as you can see here, by default, we can switch between our two different modes, the scores and the ranks. So if I click on the ranks here, as you can see, instead of having the exact percentages of each country, we actually have the country's place in the race. So this actually very clearly shows us that, for example, Russia has started on number 5, then went to number 8, and then moved quickly to number 3 at the end. If you don't want to have these scores and ranks button, of course, you can adjust which one you would like displayed by default by the scoring type here. And in addition, when you go back to controls, you can hide these toggles, and now the user would be able to see only this type of visualization. Another thing that I really want to point out is our chart sizing. Basically, here we have 3 different height modes, actually, because the auto mode actually chooses for you between the fill space and the match data according to your data and what's more appropriate. And while the match data is basically increasing the height of the visualization to prevent any possible overlapping of your labels, what the fill space does instead is basically adjusts to Flourish's usual height and width. So I'm going to use this one today just so it's a bit more clear what am I doing, and you can see the whole visualization. In addition, you can adjust the space on the right. However, I wouldn't recommend going too crazy, because if I go to 20 or something like this, the visualization looks a bit unfinished on the right. So I'm just going to put 6.3 here, maybe 6.5. This visualization and the line chart race in general is all about customization. And of course, when it comes to customization, it really does depend on your branding guidelines and everything else. So I'm not going to go into too much details when it comes to label, circle, and line styling, just because it really does depend on personal preference. However, a few things I would like to show you is this animate score setting. So for example, if we go to 2011, like this, we can see that, let's focus on Japan, we can see that Japan's score in 2011 was 79%. If I go to 2012, you can see that now, okay, maybe that's not a very good example. Maybe I can focus on US just so it's a bit more clear. The US in 2011 was 69%, whereas in 2020 was 79%. And you see that the score smoothly animates and basically transitions from the one value to the other. However, if this animate score setting is turned off, you can see that if now, even in 2012, the US score is 79. If this setting is turned off, it just jumps straight to the exact value. It doesn't make this smooth transition. In addition, another thing that I would like to show you is our first update actually here, which is the spread out overlapping setting. So now if we focus on all the different labels here, and if I turn this new function off, and if I also turn this toggle off of the hiding overlapping labels, you can see that Indonesia and India are actually like very clearly overlapping. There is no space between them, including Pakistan as well. The same goes here. They're all very kind of squished next to each other. However, if I have this new function turned on, what it does, it basically connects all the labels to the circles with connector lines, the gray lines here. So it's actually much more visible. And as you can see now, our labels do not overlap at all. So I'm just going to make them a bit smaller, and maybe I'm just going to make the label width a bit less. And maybe I can even increase the line height a little bit, so it's even a little bit more visible. Now, in addition, with the circle styles, nothing new here. I'm just going to reduce the radius a little bit, so because our labels are now smaller as well. And of course, just so you know, if you have an image, you can have, if you don't have an image, you can just turn this setting off. That wouldn't take into account if you have a column bound in the data for images. Now, going to the line style setting, I'm just going to reduce the width of the lines as well as the shading behind the line. You can, of course, have it turned off completely if you wish, just because now our visualization and our circles become a bit small. And of course, you can adjust the curve as well. So for example, my personal favorite is the normal curve, which makes everything a little bit more smoother. There are no like sharp angles and everything like this. And I personally think it looks a bit better. In the line style setting, however, there is one very interesting and very cool setting, which is lines between missing data points. I'm going to show you in a third visualization here what happens if I click replay. We can see the international arrivals per world region. And as you can see, there is also a setting of putting the labels within the circles. But what happened here? In between 2010 and 2014, there is a gap. The reason for this is because if I go to my data tab, actually my data is missing a few years of data of values. And what the visualization does, it simply skips them because it doesn't know how to calculate empty values. However, if I go to our line styles and I turn this setting on, now you can see that we're having this little line, which is a bit thinner and just looks a bit different than our usual styling of the visualization, which is the best and the most appropriate and accurate way to highlight and to point out to your users that there is no data in this particular time slot. And this is very useful, of course, because sometimes there have been surveys that have been skipping a couple of years or so and things like that. So you don't have to imagine numbers in order for your line chart race to work. And of course, you can adjust the layout from here as well. Now, once you're done with your visualization, with your number formatting, for example, so for example, here, I can put a suffix of percentages simply because these are actually percentages and it's interesting to, and it's obvious, obviously we need some sort of an indicator what the viewers looks at. We can also reduce the decimal places. So for example, it's not 48.56 for Brazil, but just 48.6, just because maybe why not? And in addition, of course, our 4 settings here, the layout, header, footer, and accessibility, they're the same with every single visualization and every single template. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm just going to show you one thing. So if I go to my data that you also have access to in my resources at the end, there is a header here. So you can literally look at this video later on in your free time and you can try and recreate the same chart. So if I put a title here and if I centrally align it, you're going to see that that actually overrides the way where our buttons are being placed into visualization as well, which is really cool because now that means that everything has some sort of a structure and an order. Moving on to the animation, of course, again, this is a personal preference to everyone, but just to explain how they work, the animation duration works like in milliseconds as well as the mode duration. So the higher the number of the animation duration, the slower your visualization. So now if I click replay, you can see the speed of my visualization. However, if I increase this to 3000, for example, you can see that now my visualization becomes much slower. And of course, I wouldn't recommend having a 3000 as a speed if you have a time range from the 1800s to 2020, obviously. But of course, as I mentioned, this is a personal preference. So my personal favorite is from 1000 about 1200. So it's still very interactive and very cool and visually pleasing, but it's not very slow. In addition, the mode duration actually adjusts the speed between those two modes. So for example, now you can see that the transition is visible, but not very slow. However, here it works a little bit different. It actually works vice versa. So if I put 700 here, you can see that my visualization, the transition became slower. If I put 100, for example, you can see the difference. Basically, the transition between those two modes is instant. It's almost not visible. So again, of course, depending on your styling guidelines and what you prefer, you can assign any mode duration here. Now, once we have this kind of visualization, we have adjusted the animation accordingly and everything is done. We have a header. The only thing that we have left to do is our layout. And under layout settings, as in every single visualization at Flourish, you can turn on the setting on, the image setting, and you'll see that there is another option here to import a URL, or to, if you click on this arrow, you can import an image from your own computer. So this is what am I going to do now. I'm just going to go to my computer and I'm going to choose the background image. Now we have this gray globe, although it's a bit big and it's a bit ugly at the moment, just because it goes up of my bar chart phrase, line chart phrase. So what am I going to do is I'm actually change the size from fill to fit. And now you can see it's a bit smaller. Of course, you can also stretch it. You can position it at the top left, at the center. You can do whatever you want. And this is the way to upload background images to every single template here at Flourish. And now we are almost done. Now, if I click replay, everything is working smoothly. You can see how many people are actually using the internet in a much more visually entertaining way than just having a line chart phrase, for example. But maybe one last thing that we're missing is our captions. So as I mentioned in the beginning of this webinar, here in the data tab, we have a new captions tab, which basically allows you to put some captions. And here, just to save a little bit of time, I've actually already wrote my captions. So I'm just going to copy and paste them in the caption column here. And the only thing that I need to do is set a time range when I want them displayed. Now, as a matter of fact, I know that 1 billion people worldwide used the internet at 2005 from 2006. And then this happened in 31st of October. So I'm just going to put 2011 to 2012. And in addition, for the first caption, I also have an image that I've chosen from the internet. It's a stock image. So I'm just going to copy the link of my data and I'm going to paste it here. And now, if we go back to our visualization and we wait until 2005, oh, I'm just going to stop it. You can stop it by clicking on this highlight here that appears. You can see that now we have a caption that says that 1 billion people worldwide use the internet. And you can see that we have an additional setting of captions appearing here. So what happens is that we can literally adjust the pop-up the way we want it, including the image as well. So for example, I can put it on the right so it doesn't look that big, and yeah. You can adjust the space between, you can adjust the size of the image, and you can literally do whatever you want. In addition, what else you can do is you can use very basic HTML and in the data tab. So for example, if I put this B here and I close my my brackets, you can see now that if we go back to 2005, actually nothing's going to happen. Just a second. Nothing is happening here yet, but if I actually go to my content mode and I choose HTML instead, maybe just move back to 2004. Maybe I should replay it or refresh the page. Just a second. Yeah. We can see that now my 1 billion people has been boldened, whereas the rest of my text is in plain regular mode. So you can also use some very custom HTML. You can make everything in italic. You can make everything bold, depending on your personal preference. And in my resources at the end, I have shared some help docs that might help you if you're very new with HTML and CSS. So don't worry about that either. And in addition, of course, one last thing is that you can change the complete layout look of your pop-ups. So for example, if I have my pop-ups in gray and I choose a white color, just so we make them a bit more visible, this is what happens. And now if we click replay again and we move on a bit further in the future to 2011, you're going to see that the same styling of our pop-up has been applied to the second one here, the caption in 2011. So yeah, those are our 3 very cool new template updates that you can do now. If you export and publish this visualization, you can do whatever you want with it. You can, for example, embed it onto your webpage, or you can screen record and upload it on social media, and customize it and do anything you wish, really. As I promised, these are our resources here. Basically, I have shared the data source and the Google Sheet that I was referring to, so you can literally play around with it. We have a help page, basically, and this is our line chart phrase help page, where you can see plenty of help docs, which, in case you're stuck, you can always take a look at these, and they most probably contain the answer you're looking for. And in addition, of course, we have this help doc as well, which basically shows us very useful HTML tags and text elements. We have a new blog post, as I mentioned. Sorry, I forgot to put the link. I'm definitely gonna change this in a second. If you go to our Flourish.studio blog, you can see here, my colleague Olivia has created this blog post, and it basically tells us everything about all these new updates in more in depth. And of course, we have our Flourish YouTube channel, where you will be able to find this recording of this webinar, so you can always take a look and refer to it in case you have any issues. And in addition, of course, I just want to remind you all that our tea break webinars are bi-weekly, which means that our next webinar is going to be on the 31st of August at the same time as well. And we're going to be showing you how to create very cool and stunning visualizations with our Sankey template, which you can actually see here at the background. So please, if you're interested, you can register for this as well. If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at hello@flourish.studio, and make sure you follow us on social media as well, simply because this is where we have all the updates and new features and very cool things that every Flourish user needs to know. And of course, we also have a newsletter, so that's another source very useful for any Flourish related updates.